What about the children?
Okay, first thing we have to do is fill out the overall concept, and what we're talking here is styles of writing. There are many styles of writing. There are many styles of essay writing. You can write a personal narrative, which is a first-person account of a story of your life, all the way to a comparison-contrast essay or a literary analysis piece. Okay, so for the purposes of this paragraph and this discussion, Concept 1 is news writing. Concept 1 on the right side is essay writing. Okay, so we'll write news writing on the left, essay writing on the right. Okay, now you can kind of see the way this chart works. We are going to have to draw a line when we get down to number 6. But what did we just learn? What's the most important part of a journalistic news story? Everybody, scream it out.
Read it. No, 1 to 3.
What's the most important part of the structure of a news story? Lead! Right. Okay, so the lead is most important, and what we're going to do is write these characteristics. We're just going to define some general characteristics in this number 3 boxes. So to the left of the arrow, you write lead is most important because that's under news writing. And then on the right, you write introduction captures attention for essay writing. So the function is very different of your first paragraph. Okay, what is the most important part of an essay? Conclusion. And where does that fall in a journalistic piece? Yeah. Okay, so we've got conclusion is least important under news writing, and conclusion is most important. You may abbreviate on your handout if you want to write intro instead of introduction, and conclusion, C-O-N-C-L, is usually how I abbreviate that. You may do that as long as you can read this, because you will be using this table to fill out your notes and your paragraph. All right. What kind of oops, I just told you. What kind of sentences do we use in news writing? Simple. Very good. Okay, so news writing there uses simple sentences, and essay writing on the right uses more complex sentences. Although you can still use simple sentences in an essay for effect. Very good. Okay, another question. We just have 2 more that we're going to try to squeeze in this box for a total of 5 items. What level of education or what reading level is the average newspaper reader?
8th grade.
8th grade. Okay, so we've got you write for the 8th grade reader under news writing, and then normally your audience in an essay is your teacher who is college educated. So that's why I put write for college reader. Of course, if you were thinking about how these two are alike, you could possibly say that they both, high school is common because you have peer editing in both. The newspaper is shared with high school readers. Okay, the last one. I want to talk about variety a little bit. Okay, so you can just write it once and then draw an arrow over to the characteristics of essay writing, but they both really use variety in sentences and in vocabulary. And what I mean is that you don't have all short, choppy sentences in news writing, so you sound like your primer All right, so we're going on to, now we filled out 3 characteristics. We're going to go to the middle here, and we are going to, there we go, go to like characteristics and then like categories. So all we're going to do is fill in how they're similar, and there are definitely more differences than similarities. So we're just going to fill out a few here, and then we're going to put it in a general category. So both of them communicate to some audience. Every piece of writing that you do, you've been taught from a young age to know who your audience is before you begin writing. It affects everything from the tone to the word choices, but both an essay and a news story communicates. And they both tell a story. Okay, so we've got audience and then just communication here as a category. Now talk to me about sentence lengths. How are they alike? Sentence length. Does that make sense? Both use a variety of sentence lengths, all right? You don't want to have just 20 words in every sentence like we talked about up here in variety. Okay, so a variety of sentence lengths. And then I think it's fair to say that they both use proper English, and that's language conventions. We don't want to be so casual in a journalistic article that we sound, it just doesn't communicate as well. Okay, now start throwing out how they're not alike at me. Look over, and then we're going to write up some characteristics up here. Okay, how are these two pieces of writing different?
One's to an 8th grade reader, the other one's to a college reader.
You got it. Okay, so your audience is different. What else? Thank you for being awake. The what? Yeah. Let's start at the very beginning, okay? Let's start with the lead. Okay, I think you can say when we talk about the structure, this is the category it's in. The lead is the most important on an news writing, and then draw this arrow in here. They forgot to put this on the template because we have to split this box into news writing and then essay writing here. You see that? And then our overall category. So the conclusion is the most important in an essay, where you have to wrap it all up and leave your reader feeling, and we definitely don't want to end a sports story here with like, hey, go Cards. Okay, go Cards. Whee! Don't conclude a news story. Okay, we talked about words. Vocabulary is concrete and familiar in a news story, but it can be passive at times, but more complex. So we're talking about the vocabulary. And then we also talked about the difference with sentence length. When you start to write your paragraph, you may use any of this language, any of these details. You're going to pick and choose and write one simple paragraph. So you can use these words, or you can use synonyms of these words. But the last thing is easy to see is the paragraph length. I didn't find the double backwards P on my clip art, so I had to just put P for paragraph. You can make a double backwards P here. 1 to 3 sentences for news, 3 to 8 for an essay, and then our general description is paragraph length. There's tons more, but unfortunately that's all our little box lets us write. So I'd like you to use 1 or 2 of these in your paragraph and come up with a couple on your own from the handout that we just went over. All right, I'd like you now to take some time and write a summary. And we'll put this in the 8 summary box. Please make it a couple sentences long. This will be a good idea starter for your paragraph. Please pause this video. Welcome back. The extension. Okay, here's what I wrote. Both styles of writing have value, so know when to use each. News writing is a simple way to communicate facts. Essay writing is a more complex way to impress your reader. So I just took a lot of the words from our summary and wrote it in that box. Okay, I hope yours is similar, and I'll check those when you turn this paragraph in. Now for extensions. Here is what you do. Write one paragraph where you compare and or contrast these two styles.
You want us to write that in there?
Just write one paragraph and I'll be happy. Okay, follow the writing process. This is on your sheet. And I want to point out that you can either compare. Okay, how are these two alike? And you have a lot of information right here about that. You can also just contrast. How are these different? Or you can do both. They're different in many ways, but they're also alike. Okay, any questions? And we'll carry on with this assignment tomorrow.